Something huge is happening right now in crypto. And it's not just another price move, folks. We got to zoom out a little bit here. We are watching the merge of crypto and politics in real time. Yes, Ripple is now being involved or being invited to the White House, directly connected back to Donald Trump and the inner circle, while the biggest financial institutions, they're quietly aligning behind the scenes on the same exact blockchain rails. This is way bigger than a token or a chart. This is the next phase of the financial revolution. In the next 10 to 15 minutes or so, we're going to connect all the dots to mainstream they aren't showing you because they're not ready to show it to you yet. We're going to talk about the whales who are buying Bitcoin. We're going to talk about ARK loading up on ETFs and the connection that most people missed on DTCC and Ripple, all linking back to $2.5 quadrillion settlement system. And top it all off, how Trump's team is positioning for a blockchain-powered economy. That's right. You better buckle up because in this video, you're going to see exactly how Ripple went from fighting the SEC to walking into the White House. And we start right here. You see it up on your screen. A Bitcoin whale just purchased over 1,000 Bitcoin. That is worth over $110 million. They did it over on Binance. Now, if this Bitcoin whale thought we were entering a bear market, why would they be purchasing 1,000 Bitcoin? They wouldn't. That's the answer. They wouldn't. You don't spend 9 figures buying the dip unless you know what is coming next. This is smart money being activated. Deep liquidity players loading up for the next institutional leg. Every time we've seen this type of accumulation, and go back in history, everything on a blockchain, you can look it up, you can filter it, you can see all these buys, but I want you to do your own research on this. It's the same pattern, right? You get stealth buys, you get ETF momentums, and then you get a macro rotation into risk assets. In the last video, we talked about the Russell. We explained to you why people look at it, what it means. It's all about the risk asset. The whales, they're buying. Retail, they're nervous. They're getting shaken from the tree. This is always the exact same setup before that breakout. And the next catalyst, you're about to see exactly where it is coming from. Right here, breaking news, ARK Invest. They just filed for 4 new Bitcoin ETFs. 4. That's not a test balloon. That is a signal of conviction. Cathie Wood and her team, they're not just betting on structure here. They're building multiple ETF vehicles to capture institutional flows at scale. They know where the money is and they know how to make the money. So think about it for a second. We already got BlackRock, right? We got Fidelity, we got Van Eck, and now ARK expanding their Bitcoin ETF lineup. That is full institutional validation. Every time another ETF files, it means one thing. Demand is outpacing infrastructure. And when ETFs start expanding, they look to the next digital asset, to other digital assets. They see what is next in line, where they're going to get in and where they can handle liquidity at scale, which brings us directly to Ripple, actually. What Ripple is doing, a lot of people, they're not paying attention, which I don't know why, but I'm going to break it all down for you. And if you're not following me over on TikTok, folks, go on over to TikTok, Rip Bullwinkle. Give me a follow over there. We're posting up a lot of content on TikTok. We know people love this scrolling on TikTok. So let's jump over to this, okay? Talking DTCC. You know what that stands for? That is the Depository Trust and Clearing Corporation. This is the same body that processes nearly every securities trade in the US. And they just dropped something massive. The managing director from the DTCC, he literally referenced XRP while describing a public ledger with instant settlement right after they filed a patent for something called a liquidity token. Interesting, right? I want you to listen to this because we're going to go deep on this. We're tying this in. You're about to be blown away. Here we go.
How much simpler can it be to roll out a technology and roll out processing and eliminate the many upgrades and many coordinations that are necessary? I have a list of I'll say, hype comments, and I'll just give you a few of them. Reconciliation goes away. I think that's a myth. No matter how you slice it, there are other systems, whether they're big data systems, whether they're your trading systems, whether It's end ledgers. There will always be reconciliation to get things on the ledger and to get things off the ledger. That T0 or immediate settlement is the ultimate benefit of this technology. There are some use cases that imply that instant, near real-time settlement can occur. Is that always desirable? It probably depends on the business case. The idea that you can share information, I think, is the ultimate value, and that sometimes gets lost in the hype about the one implementation of the technology that's existed for 7 years, Bitcoin, where near real-time settlement has been one of its benefits. That may not apply in all cases, and there are many use cases where information sharing is perhaps of more value than real-time settlement. That the ledger of transactions can provide all computing solutions that a company needs, that you could turn off all your other systems because the ledger is here. That's completely untrue. There are plenty of systems you have before the ledger, after the ledger, creating reports, creating big data that this technology just does not do. What's sometimes fundamentally lost in the conversation is that this technology is just a ledger of transactions. That everyone really wants every transaction they do to be public. That every transaction they do in any manner, they want to be put into public on a ledger. And that finally, that a public untrusted network is always inevitably a better choice than a private one based on trust.
All right, so look, let that sink in for a second. The clearinghouse that handles the backbone of global markets, 2.5 quadrillion in yearly transactions, is openly talking about using XRP-like technology for instant clearing. They didn't say someday, okay? They said now. And if you know how Ripple moves, they don't make noise until the ink's already dry, which leads us into this. Remember this one? You guessed it. Ripple and DTCC are now directly connected. This isn't speculation. This is the quiet alignment that we have been waiting for. Ripple's tech with XRP at its core is built exactly for what the DTCC does, and that is settlement. So when you got a DTCC executive talking about instant settlement on a public ledger, and then Ripple shows up in their patent ecosystem, that's not a coincidence, everyone. That's confirmation. And it goes even deeper than this, because through one key acquisition, Ripple they just didn't link in with DTCC. They gained direct access to that $2.5 quadrillion settlement network. And let's break that down further. Here's the play. We'll blow this up for you on your screen. Through their securrency acquisition, you see it right here, Ripple and Stellar have officially gained strategic access into the DTCC settlement network. That's 2.5 quadrillion, yes, quadrillion with a Q, in annual transactions. Securrency's technology was already integrated with DTCC's digital asset innovations, and when Ripple bought them, they effectively inherited the bridge between traditional clearing systems and blockchain. A lot of people don't know this. So what does it all mean? It's simple. It means that Ripple is embedded inside the same ecosystem that clears every major stock, bond, and derivatives in the US markets. That's not adoption is coming someday down a pipeline. That's adoption has already begun. And right as it's happening, look who else is starting to step into the crypto spotlight. That's right. Charles Schwab, which manages over 11 trillion in assets, they just confirmed that they are launching spot Bitcoin trading in 2026. That's not a retail move. That is a global infrastructure shift. All of your major institutions, they're coming one by one. This is the year, or I should say the years of institutions entering crypto. BlackRock, Fidelity, JP Morgan, Citi, Van Eck, Goldman, they have all officially, Morgan Stanley, thrown their names out there that they are getting involved in Bitcoin. So you got Schwab, who's joining the ETF wave. You got institutional brokers onboarding Bitcoin. And now you got Ripple, who is integrated into the backbone of finance. The walls that once separated traditional and digital markets, they're crumbling, and they're crumbling fast. And the next barrier to fall, well, it might just be the one that the SEC built, because we got CoinShares who just filed amendment number 2 for their XRP spot ETF with the SEC. That's another concrete step towards US approval, and we're still waiting for it, but we will get it for the first ever spot XRP ETF. This is monumental. For years, XRP was locked out of the ETF conversation due to that SEC lawsuit. But now that Ripple's won clarity and major partners are entering, regulators can no longer ignore XRP's legitimacy as a settlement asset. This is the moment where XRP stops being that altcoin that fought the SEC and becomes the liquidity layer of institutional finance. The walls here between TradeFi and crypto, they aren't just coming down. They're being rebuilt, and they're being rebuilt around Ripple. But then we get Eric Trump out here because he's busy. He's talking about tokenizing everything. He has unveiled a plan to tokenize real estate, allowing public ownership through blockchain-based assets. That means that the Trump family is now directly aligned with tokenization, with fractionalizing trillion-dollar markets like real estate, using on-chain settlement to help with ownership. Listen to him.
You mentioned just a little while ago the tokenization of real estate and the potential to tokenize your family's real estate. Would you ever consider tokenizing any of the real estate in your portfolio?
So I've got a big announcement. I won't tell you right now, but the answer is yes, I would. We're working on it as it pertains to one specific building that I'm doing right now, and I think it's going to be absolutely incredible. And so many people would love to have a piece of something that we do. If I decided to build a hotel, in Washington, D.C. or in Dubai or in New York, why do I have to go out again using the Deutsche Bank or, why do I have to go out to them and get financing? Why can't I just go out to the masses? Why can't I go on my X and go out to our tens and tens of millions of people and say, guys, you know what? I'm going to build the greatest tower in Dubai or in New York. Who wants to join along? Who wants to share in that? Who wants to buy 1/1,000,000th of that building and put in $1,000 and be part of our success together, right? Under no other scenario could they ever have had access to that project. They didn't have the money, they didn't have the means, they didn't have the capital, they didn't have the know-how, they didn't have the bandwidth or the contacts. They could have never been involved with the ownership of Trump Tower Dubai or Trump Tower Washington, Washington D.C. or New York. No different than Taylor Swift. I mean, if Taylor Swift does an album, why can't she come out and say, "Listen, my next album, I'm going to tokenize it." For all the Swift fans out there, the millions of people, young girls that love her. If everybody wants to buy in for $50, I'm going to sell one token of my new album for $50, and you're going to have intrinsic ownership forever. The world is migrating to a system like that, right? And that's going to take out a lot of these power players that have really had virtual monopolies over these industries.
Virtual monopolies are coming to an end. I like the sound of that. But guess what? Blockchain companies are perfectly positioned for this. Both Ripple and Stellar, the ones who are going to be working with the DTCC, both already handle tokenization, real world value, and instant liquidity. This isn't random. It's the beginning of blockchain policy at the White House level. And speaking of the White House, it's official. Congrats to Ripple. President Trump's hosting a $250 million White House gala for top donors. And guess who was invited? Well, if you guessed Ripple, you guessed right. The same company that is battling U.S. regulators, they're now being welcomed into the room with the next administration's most powerful financial players. This is not just symbolism. This is access. Ripple went from crypto outsider to institutional insider. And now it's walking straight into the halls of power with direct lines to the policymakers who's going to define the next financial era. You still think Ripple, just another company? You're missing the plot. This isn't a crypto story anymore. This is a global power move. And if you're thinking Rip, the only reason they got invited because they gave them all this money. They got invited because they gave them all the money, which is okay. Because you know who they're going to be talking to when they're there? All the power players in this world. Because all the people that have money and that dictate what's going on in this world and who's going to do what and who's going to win, they're going to be in the same room with Ripple. That is how you have to look at this. Not like the only reason they got invited because they got money. That's great. But look who's going to be there. Google, HP, Meta, the Winklevoss twins are going to be there. Coinbase is going to be there. Amazon, Apple. They're going to be with the biggest players in the United States at this event. And then the drinks start flowing and the conversations start having, folks. You got to start thinking outside the box here. Not everything's going to be put down for you in black and white. Doesn't work like that. They'll give it to you black and white when it's too late. So zoom out for a second. Let's all just take a breath and relax and breathe. Enjoy life. The markets aren't done. Volatility and chop. Do you think this was going to be easy? You got whales buying, ARK's loading up, DTCC's confirming XRP integration, Charles Schwab is going crypto, Eric Trump is tokenizing real estate, and Ripple is walking into the damn White House. This is the first convergence of Wall Street, blockchain, and politics all into one. The same systems that used to try to suppress crypto, they are now officially adopting it. The same institutions that called it too risky are now building on it. And the same political leaders who ignored it are now being invited to dinner. This is now reality. Blockchain, it's going mainstream. The mainstream, it's coming to blockchain. And if you want to be on the right side of this shift, don't just watch it happen. Position yourself now. Book yourself a one-on-one call. You deserve it. Let's build your next move and make sure you are ready before the rest of the world wakes up. Because guess what? This isn't just a bull market. It is a changing of the guard. Ripple, they're not knocking on the door anymore. They are already inside. Hit that thumbs up on your way out. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. I hope you enjoyed that one.